Welcome to Baker Makes It. My name is Zach Baker, and in this video we're going to be putting plywood on the inside of our 1970s holiday Rambler restoration project. This has been a long time coming. We've been working on the outside and the frame and all of the things that have to happen before the plywood goes up for a long time, for many years now. Now that the plywood's going to be going in, we're going to be able to very quickly get this project going, with the goal being to go camping for July 4th this summer. I went to the store and I got some plywood, so we're going to get this unloaded and start doing some prep work to get this going. Before we can dive into actually putting plywood up in here, we've got a little bit of pre-work. We've got some wiring we got to do, particularly the marker lights behind me and on the front of the camper. And we've also got to trim back some of the insulation, which we're going to do with an oscillating tool. I think we're just going to do all that at once. I'm sure we'll have to kind of tweak some things as we go, but we're going to get a lot of that done right now. We're also going to touch up a few spots where the insulation didn't quite get into a few tiny little corners, and then we'll start hanging plywood. See, the backlights are on, but we got an orange one where there should be a red one. So I assumed it was just the lenses that changed the color on these, but I guess it's actually the LEDs. So I found the one on the front that is swapped, and I'm going to go ahead and just swap these two back to where they should be. That's better. Okay, here's what we've got. It's not the prettiest. It's just taped up right now. There's some extra wires so we can make future changes and we won't run out. So now we're going to take some spray foam and just do some dabs along here to kind of hold this in place. I can't think of another great way to do this that isn't going to put it too close to where the screws are going to be. So I'm just going to take some foam and just put some drops along the wire and let them dry. All right, now that the wires are attached, the next step is going to be to go through with a can of spray foam or two and just hit every spot that's missing foam. There's some weird corners and things that there's no way they could have gotten with the big spray foam gun that did these big areas. And so we're just going to do a little touch up on those. That'll dry overnight. We'll come back tomorrow and we'll start cutting off the high spots. We'll start sanding anywhere where there is overspray on the foam. And maybe, just maybe, we'll get a sheet of plywood up on the ceiling. Holy cow, what a mess that was. Everything's cut back except for behind the plywood over there. I went through and I kind of scored all the aluminum with a smaller blade and just got it so I think that the glue will stick a little bit better in those spots. I also went through and I sanded any of the overspray. All that's looking really good, but I've made a huge mess. So now I'm going to quick show you guys what this is looking like, and then we'll get this cleaned up. You can see this is quite the mess down here on the floor. We've got some nice shiny aluminum on these. And you can see the lighter spots on the foam here are where I've cut this back. But everything's looking pretty good. I did have to, in a few spots, like this one here, I had to dig out the loom a little bit and make some room behind it, just because it was going to be sitting proud of the surface. So that's looking good now. There might be a few other spots, like this is right on the edge, but I'm hoping that'll compress enough with the plywood. But now it's time to clean up this mess. It's the next day, we're ready to get started on plywood. I'm gonna start with the hard spot here behind me with this curved piece. And so we have to measure what the total width or length of this board is gonna be around the curve. I'm gonna do that using a piece of mason's line. I'm gonna stretch this from where I wanna start to where I wanna stop, around the curve, and then we'll pull it out and we'll measure it. I'm not totally confident that's going to be right, and I don't want to waste the sheet, so I'm probably going to add a ½ inch or an inch to that, unless it's going to get me past the 24-inch mark where I would use more than half a sheet. And then I'll do that on the other side, same thing, check that. And then we're gonna push this up in here and see how it curves. We've got a combination of glue, screws, and narrow crown staples to hold this up. I'm not sure how much force is gonna be required to maintain this curve, so there's a little bit of trial and error here. Let's give it a shot. Well, that didn't work at all. We couldn't even come close to bending it. So we're gonna get a clothing steamer and try to steam the back of this and see if maybe that makes it flexible enough. If that doesn't work, we might have to cut some lines into the back of this to make it bend. Still no dice, that barely did anything. So we're gonna take the circular saw and we're gonna run cuts, thinking maybe every inch, all the way across the back of this. I'm gonna go maybe halfway through, and hopefully that will give us enough flex to make this curve. Well, that sucked. That was 90-ish cuts in that piece. Really hard to get that right, but I'm hoping we're good enough to make this work. All right, I think that's gonna work. I'm definitely gonna need a second set of hands for this though. Good news is it flexes so easy, I think I can do it with just staples and no screws, so that'll be good. Holy cow, that worked. That ended up going in like no trouble at all. Especially compared to earlier when we were pushing and it just wouldn't go. That went so well, and you can't see any of the lines from all those like 90 some cuts on the back. So I am really happy with that. I probably ended up a hair short on the sides, but we're gonna have some sort of molding around that anyway. And it feels decently strong enough. This is not something that's super structural, and it's not going to take a beating right here. So I think this is going to be good. You know, one hard hit on this would probably cause some damage, but you know, same with any wall in a house. So we're going to hope that's good enough. Next step, we're going to go ahead and get another sheet up here, and then we can start playing around with getting some lights in, maybe even getting one of the vent fan trim kits in and see what that looks like. All right, that's about all I'm gonna have time for today. The second piece is up, and I couldn't help myself. I put in recessed light here, and then I put the shroud, the trim on the fan here. I plugged in a little 12-volt battery, just verified everything's working right, and it is. This is such a good feeling to see this getting covered up again. It has been 5 years since I started demoing this. So I cannot express how excited I am to get this going. I'm gonna have to stop for today, but I'm just gonna keep chugging along at this throughout the week. I've got a total of 6 pieces that are gonna go up on the ceiling, including one more curved one at the front. Once that happens, we'll start on the walls. Now we're getting somewhere. We've got all the plywood on the ceiling. Everything went really well. It was a bit of a process getting those curves done, but they're up. As I went, I put in all these trim kits for the vent fans and the recessed lights as well. And I've just been testing the wiring, and so far everything is working like it should. The next step is going to be to move on to the walls. It's going to be the same process. We've got some challenging cuts front and back, so we're going to be scribing some of these curves, and we're going to be using glue and staples, and then maybe a couple screws here and there where there's not wood to staple to, but we may let some of the future cabinets and things kind of hold this stuff to the wall with screws. So we'll play that one by ear, but we're going to start on these walls and get these things going. So if you've never done a cut like this can be a little bit intimidating to try to get all these curves right. This one piece is going to have a notch around this, an angled part here, a curved part here, curves around the window, and then the bunk window, which is behind up in here, is going to be notched into this as well. And we've also got a door down here. This is an incredibly complicated piece. But what we're going to do here is do something called scribing. And basically what we're looking to do is figure out what is the dimension that this needs to go to be all the way to the back. So let's say, for example, that's 18 inches. I haven't measured it, but if you take an 18-inch stick and you hold it along the back horizontally on a level, and you put a pencil on the left side and you run that stick up, and when you hit the top, you slide it out, and then you follow the angle, and then you follow the curve, you'll have it. But it's really hard to do when you're 18 inches out. So what we're going to do is follow that process, but we're going to do it very roughly, and we're going to do this in a couple stages. So the first stage is going to involve starting to put this curve into it, and then once we get within maybe 6 or 8 inches, we'll get a much more detailed scribe on here, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. Using a plain old compass is another way to do this. This is an old one I got at an antique store. It's really solid, but same thing, you would set the distance from the point to the tip that this whole piece needs to move. Follow this curve around, and it comes right into that other one. So that's what we want. So in many cases, simple is better, and just a big compass that you might use for drilling or for marking circles can work really well for this. So there's a few spots I could tell I got a little off, and so I'm just going to kind of take some liberties, get as close as I can, and then we'll get this thing on here and see if we need to adjust. Okay, so with that adjustment, we're looking much tighter. The goal would be to be within about 1/8 to 3/16 here, because this piece of plywood will cover that. We want to be pretty dang close throughout this curve. We're about 3/8 off at the top there, which isn't ideal, but we're probably going to use like a 1/2 or a 3/4 inch quarter round flexible molding that's going to go through here. So I'm not too terribly worried about that. And then down here, everything's looking plenty good for where we cover these pieces up. We could come back maybe a 1/4 inch more, but it's really not going to matter. I don't know that all this is going to end up getting covered anyway, just for access and being able to tell if water's ever getting in. So we've got probably the hardest part of that done. Now we need to mark our window, and so I'm literally just going to come along. I'm going to hold a straight edge up on top of here, mark a line for the bottom and the top, and then I'll measure over for the side. And then we're going to do something similar with the window here, but it is time now to take off our window trim and the spacers we had behind it, and we'll start figuring that out. That's going to be a little harder with the curves, so we're going to have to try some different stuff there. And then down at the bottom, we've got to mark that opening as well. We're off to a really solid start here, and now we're just going to kind of cut to a montage of a bunch of this plywood going up. I did this over a bunch of different days. It was just a lot to stop and start filming every time, so we just have a time lapse here of getting the rest of this plywood on the walls. wanted to show you all something real quick. It was a little hard to explain this back when I was doing the pre-wiring before I did insulation. I've got this bundle of wires coming out underneath the switch here, and behind the switch all the wires go up to the recess lights, the outdoor porch light, and the dinette light. There's 4 grounds that come out of here that go to the 4 different lights, and then there are 3 hot wires. There's 2 lights that are connected together on 1 hot wire. So there's 3 circuits here. And I just got done putting the switch in, and you know, I don't have fuses or anything, but I couldn't help but plug in an M12 battery here and turn this on, and we've got light in here. Check it out. And just like that, the plywood is done. That was quite a bit of difficult cutting with curves and notches and holes for wires, but everything went really well. We didn't have any pieces that I had to redo, so I'm really happy about that. Our next step is going to be to lay flooring in here. Now, I haven't really showed you guys the design yet. That's going to come up soon, but I will give a sneak peek that this is the flooring that's going in. This is a dark walnut colored LVP. It's a vinyl plank, and it is a glue down product. So our next video is going to be prepping the floors in here, getting them sanded, clean, and start laying down this flooring. If you have been following along for a long time, this process has been a long one, but we are at a point now where things are going to start moving really fast. So if you aren't subscribed yet, definitely follow along to Baker Makes It, and these videos are going to be good. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.